Hey guys, we're doing it. All right, so I've never live streamed before, so bear with me on this. I don't sound professional at all. Yeah, no, I'm not going to sound professional. I'm actually live streaming right now from the UK, so it is 2 in the morning. Let's see if I can get through the whole debate. Right now, the debate's actually happening. If you haven't found the actual live stream for the debate, you can go to cnn.com and live stream it. I'm not going to talk too much while the actual debate is going, but I'm going to kind of break in on breaks and just give you my thoughts as they come. Also, if you guys want to ask me any questions, please talk to Progressive Voice. Progressive Voice is interesting. It's sort of like a drama alert of progressive YouTube channels. Probably never going to talk to Progressive Voice, or at least kind of hoping not. I think Progressive Voice would talk about me if I got into some kind of scandal. I'm not really interested in that. Hi, Grant. You can stream the actual debate at cnn.com. That's how I'm watching it right now. Will you do breakdowns of presidential debates in October? Yes, of course I will. I'm going to keep doing all of the breakdowns. Have you watched Kyle Kalinske, Secular Talk? Yes, I have been watching him. He's great. You sound like Daddy. Yep. My breath might sound harder than it really is, Brandon, because I'm trying to speak quietly as to not wake up my wife, who's in the other room. Because it's actually 2 in the morning from where I'm streaming, because I actually just came out to the United Kingdom. Do I have a stream delay? Yeah, just by a few seconds. Do you have any social media Discord? Not really doing much social media other than YouTube, and I've got my Patreon going. Do you agree with Sanders or Warren? That's a big thing. So, with the Sanders-Warren beef, I made a little community post about it because it was something that was left out of my predictions video. So there's 2 stories. The more recent one is that Warren said that Sanders said that no woman could win the presidential election this time around. And Sanders, at least some of his spokespeople have come out and said that it was a misunderstanding. I have a feeling from what I've read about it, seems like he probably said that electability for women would be a problem. Based on he was saying that like Trump would go personal and go after go after anything he could, and he probably mentioned that he would be especially aggressive against women or something like that. But it doesn't mean much. I don't think he was saying specifically that women would not be able to win the presidential election, but it makes sense to me that Warren would have heard him that way. So all in all, I guess I'm kind of on the side of it sounds like an actual genuine miscommunication. In terms of the other thing, I think it was basically a Politico looking to create tension between the progressives. I think they successfully started a little beef over a document which was released, I don't know at what level, from the Sanders campaign. It could have been just a random volunteer, maybe someone who oversees some interns. I don't know how official it was. Certainly the Politico story would have mentioned that it was coming from a senior member of his campaign, if it was, but I don't think it was. So someone in his campaign released some notes, which indicated which just actually also, I think that it's silly that Warren said that it was trashing her campaign, because it was really just arguments about electability. It wasn't saying personal garbage about her. It wasn't trying to smear her. So I think electability arguments are reasonable. I mean, in my last video that I launched, I actually said a pro-Warren electability thing. Castro said that she would be a good way of unifying the left and the right of the Democratic Party. And I pointed out that Castro's argument is actually reasonable, that Sanders and Biden are both more divisive for parts of the party. Is that me trashing Bernie Sanders' campaign? No. I mean, he's my favorite candidate in the race, so I don't think making an electability argument is trashing. So I think that was silly. But anyway, I hope that they don't get into a big fight about it in this debate. That's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. I'm kind of thinking that Warren will not bring it up, but the moderators very likely could. Who got the bigger wing wang? What do you think about Jetta running for Senate? Is he running for federal Senate? I didn't know he was running for U.S. Senate, actually. He's a West Virginia state senator. I think the more natural path, even though I enjoyed his very brief presidential run, I think the next natural step would be to run for the House. If I were Jetta, that's what I would do. I'd run for the House first, then run for the U.S. Senate later. That's a more normal path. I don't really like when politicians skip ahead too far. That's actually one of my it's actually my biggest concern with Yang. Is my biggest thing that I don't like about Yang is that I don't think he's gained up enough of his experience. But I actually love him on his policies. His policies are fantastic, and I think he's an honest politician. Bruh, he didn't answer the question. Who got bigger wing wang? No, I'm not answering that question, John Lang. Do you think Yang will drop out after missing the debate? No, not yet. I don't think that Yang is going to drop out soon. Greetings from the UK. I'm in the UK too right now, actually. If I had to guess, John Lang, who had the biggest wang or wing wang? I don't know what you're saying. Wing wang. Probably Klobuchar. You think Trump will stick to Crazy Bernie or get a new nickname? He's probably going to stick with that. I don't think it's particularly good argument. Who do I think is going to win in Iowa? Sanders seems to have really, really strong numbers in Iowa. But there was a recent poll, I think by Emerson, that put Biden actually up, which is kind of surprising. So we have almost a statistical tie between Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Pete Buttigieg in Iowa. So any of those three could win. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't someone else. Should Bernie announce his VP early? Yeah, I actually would have loved him to announce his VP pick early. I think he may have even considered doing that. It is something that Joe Biden was very seriously considering doing himself. It is something that I think an older candidate ought to do. It's a smart thing to do. But no, I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to announce a VP until Elizabeth Warren has dropped out of the race, because I think that's who he wants to pick as his running mate. Even with this newest beef, I don't think that'll change it. What is your political stance? I'm pretty progressive. I'm pretty far on the left on most issues. Do you think Buttigieg is a potential VP pick? Not for Sanders, but certainly for Joe Biden. I think Stacey Abrams is his top choice. He's got a few others. I highlighted it in my Joe Biden running mate video. You should check it out. You're going to lose a subscriber if you don't answer. I answered, John Lang. Klobuchar. Mustachio question. Warren does not actually feed from the same voter base as Bernie Sanders. As the talking points memo that was released by Politico actually correctly pointed out, Warren does have a more educated base. She has a slightly wealthier base and a whiter base, I believe, than Bernie Sanders. Her base is generally more white collar. So they actually together are a fantastic progressive ticket. I can't live stream the actual debate. When I release the video, I'll use little pieces of it, but it's hard to make sure it complies with the law. Basically, I don't want to violate copyright. You can live stream the actual debate right now from CNN.com. That's what I'm doing. If Bernie were to lose, would you vote for Trump or would you vote for one of the other Democrats? Pretty much any of the other Democrats I'd vote for over Trump. I love Nina Turner. Why does only why does Bernie only talk about healthcare? Well, he's talking about trade deals right now. The reason he talks about healthcare so much is that he wrote the Medicare for All bill. Warren Wilkinson, good question, but I don't think I know enough about Jeremy Corbyn to agree or disagree, but he does seem to be relatively similar in that they're both quite progressive. There's a huge difference in context, though. I mean, Bernie Sanders' biggest issue is pushing for Medicare for all right now. That's probably his top priority if he becomes president. Whereas no mainstream UK politician supports getting rid of single-payer healthcare. So left in the UK is far to the left of anything within the normal discussions within the United States. You think Bloomberg will win some primaries come Super Tuesday? Man, I really hope not. Bloomberg or Steyer? Pff, Sophie's choice. Biden or Buttigieg? I would probably prefer Biden over Buttigieg, especially if he promises the one-term thing, which he was floating recently, and actually was considering floating even before he launched his campaign. Biden at least has experience, but I really don't think he's a great candidate. I think he will be problematic in terms of electability against Trump because he's too similar of a candidate in my view as Hillary Clinton. Think Yang will be able to make a comeback? Not really. I don't think Yang will win the nomination. It's really early in his political career to actually win a presidential election. The way I look at Yang's campaign is it's successful if he successfully brings his issues into the forefront of the primary, which I think he successfully did. So I see Yang's candidacy is already successful. He's already achieved more than at the beginning of his campaign you could have expected him to ever achieve. And that's also why I don't think he's ever going to drop out, or not going to drop out for some time. The choices after Bernie. I like Yang a lot. I like Warren a lot as well. I think Warren is more qualified. I think Yang's got better, more interesting policy suggestions. Delaney should drop out. Yeah. Yeah, Delaney has absolutely no chance. I don't know why he's still running. Who will drop out next? I don't know. We recently, sadly, had some sad dropouts. Julian Castro, Marianne Williamson, and Cory Booker. I think John Delaney is likely to drop out. I think Michael Bennett is likely to drop out. Tom Steyer really should drop out because everything he's offering, really, Bloomberg has it or more. He has more political experience. He has more money. Deval Patrick, I don't know why he even launched his campaign. So he should probably drop out. I don't think Tulsi Gabbard will drop out quite so soon because she's just wants to keep it going. I think she wants the increased visibility. So who do you hate the most? I don't hate anybody. All right, John Lang, I'll answer your question. You think Mike Bloomberg got nice balls? Not in my opinion. I bet if I saw them, I would not enjoy them. Does that answer your question, John? Thank you for the super chat. Don't you hate Tom? Well, it's not that I hate Tom Steyer. I don't hate him as a person. I just think that you shouldn't be running for president just because you have money. It's just not worth it. You have to actually... Oh, thank you, Robbie Sturt. Thank you for the donation. Wow, thanks. No, Tom Steyer, it's not personal. I don't hate him as a person. I just think it's ridiculous that he thinks that he can run himself. You actually need experience to be a president. You can't just jump in because you know a lot about politics and you have a lot of money and you've run business. It's not enough. Later, Mark. In any chance you vote for Trump, none of the current likely Democratic contenders are worse than Donald Trump, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that I think that Donald Trump is the worst politician to get close to the presidency ever. What do you think the electoral results would be in a Sanders versus Trump? They would be close. Whoever runs against Trump is going to have a close contest with him. Anyone who thinks that Trump is just going to get completely crushed in the electoral college is wrong. He is incredibly popular amongst his base, and a lot of Republicans are never going to vote for a Democrat. Hey, Robert, thanks. Just read your comment. Hey, man, I've been following your debate analysis and predictions. Thanks so much. What do you think of Bernie? Are you a Bernie bro? Well, I'm not a bro, but I like Sanders. He's my favorite candidate right now. Oh, here it is. If you guys are watching this stream on CNN, here's the Warren Sanders question. Okay, Sanders is laughing it off. Okay, that's a really good answer from Sanders. He says he didn't say it. He was very clear about that. And they pointed out evidence that he believes that a woman could be a president. 30 years ago, he deferred to Warren last cycle. Both things are true. Okay, looks like Warren did not go for the confrontation there. She's pivoting to the actual important subject, which is, can a woman beat Donald Trump? Instead of actually saying, oh, yes, he did say it. She implied that he said it by answering, it hurt, I disagreed. But she diminish the beef as much as possible. It seems like that's pretty much beef squashed, I would say, unless post-debate it gets heated up again. I honestly think sometimes Warren takes the media too seriously. When Politico asks her a question, she believes that the context that they provide is correct, and I don't think that is always the case. I don't know why Klobuchar always points out that she's short. Bruce, I haven't actually seen that Project Veritas video. You can link it to my last community post, and I'll check it out later. You shouldn't really trust them. Yeah, the moderators do ask Sanders, I would say, disproportionately harsh questions quite often. I actually think this is a debate where it's fairly fair to do that, since he, by some polling, seems to have the lead in Iowa. I think it's fair for moderators to ask tough questions of the leaders. I hope they also ask tough questions of Biden and Buttigieg, but I don't mind tough questions. I just don't like when they misconstrue information. Deja vu voodoo doll. Good point. That's true. Any dropouts this year that have good chance in 2024? Honestly, I think Booker does have reasonable chance if the political climate was a little bit different. I think we're in sort of a progressive and populist wave. But Booker would, under normal circumstances, be a pretty strong competitor. Williamson doesn't. She has no experience. Castro, too, similar to Booker, although I think Booker's got more style and stage presence. Castro sometimes comes off as overly aggressive, which I actually really enjoy. I love that aggressive approach. I'm going to really miss Castro in the debates, but Booker's got a kind of calm, cool, collected presence on stage, and I think that can help quite a bit. Okay, so Biden just said that he has the broadest coalition of anyone in the race, which is kind of a strange point to make. He still has the largest voting base. He's polling the highest out of all the candidates, if you believe the polls. So you have the luxury of saying you have a broad coalition if you have most of the supporters overall. He definitely has the most black support, by the way, which is why he's pretty much a shoo-in for South Carolina. We might see the Nevada polls move, and certainly we'll see the polls move in for the Super Tuesday states leading up to Super Tuesday. But Biden's going to win South Carolina. You can pretty much call it now. Do you think we've already seen Warren's VP pick? Could be Julian Castro. It seems like Julian Castro wants to be her VP pick. But Kyle Kalinske on Secular Talk actually predicted recently that Booker will also endorse Elizabeth Warren. That is likely as well. Cory Booker is fairly liberal, but not quite a progressive as say Bernie Sanders. Booker's probably too far to the right for Sanders, probably too far to the left for Joe Biden, so he's probably going to endorse Warren, probably in hopes of being her VP pick should she win the nomination. But I mean, she's the third or fourth most likely to win it. Okay, have you guys been watching the actual debate? Okay, so let's talk about what we've actually seen in the debate so far. I've been pretty distracted by you guys asking questions. This is my first time live streaming, so not very good at splitting my focus yet. And also, I don't have any help. I'm doing this all on my own. So, but the two biggest things that I've seen so far in this debate, I believe, were right off the top, the question about Iraq between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, and a little later on, the questions between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Let's start with the second. With Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, there is a Politico story that came out, I think on Friday or Saturday, about some document that was suggesting basically electability arguments against candidates Buttigieg, Biden, and Elizabeth Warren that came from somewhere within the Sanders campaign. Could have been a low-level volunteer, could have been someone a little higher up than that, probably not an actual leader of his campaign. But as a result of that, they brought the document to Elizabeth Warren and asked her for a comment, and she said that she was disappointed that Bernie Sanders' campaign was trashing her campaign. So that part of the story did not get addressed in this debate. Instead, there was a later story that was more Warren-Sanders tension, which was about apparently, I don't know if you guys know this, but before either of them launched their campaign, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren had this meeting, and no one really knows what they were saying. No one knows the content of this closed-door meeting between the two of them, but a lot of people... Thank you so much, John Lang. Okay, I want to make an informed opinion as a voter. Who got the bigger wigwag, Biden or Bernie? Klobuchar not an option. Okay, I'll say Sanders just because I like his policies more. I'm gonna say Bernie with the bigger wing wang. Anyway, thanks, John. Okay, now I'm just thinking about wing wangs. Great. So between Bernie and Warren, there was a question when they had this meeting before they launched their campaigns. Everyone is pretty confident that they made some kind of a deal not to attack each other during the campaigns. And up until now, they probably didn't. But Warren recently alleged that Bernie Sanders said that he thought that a woman would not be electable, whereas Sanders denies that. So he denied it and gave evidence. So he was just asked about it. He denied it. By the way, the debate is back on right now. Anyway, Sanders denied it. He provided evidence of points where he had said that he thought a woman could win the presidency in the past, including Elizabeth Warren specifically back in 2015. So pretty good arguments. Warren didn't push the issue. Instead, she went on to talk about electability of women. The other argument was between Bernie and Joe Biden over Biden's Iraq vote. Biden did vote in favor of Iraq. Bernie didn't. Joe Biden talked about how he was against the surge and a few other things like that. Then he changed his mind on it and blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden had a perfectly good answer to it, but overall, Sanders sort of wins the exchange by default because no matter what Joe Biden says, the fact of the matter is that Bernie voted against the Iraq war and Biden did not. So it's pretty hard to see that exchange as a victory for Joe Biden, although it wasn't from what he was saying. It was just the facts of the matter. So that's how I see that. So we've got the debate back on, so I'm going to turn the volume back up on that in my headphones. You guys can watch along at CNN.com. Man, I'm doing so much work for CNN. Okay, so right now they're talking about the cost of Medicare for all because it's a Democratic debate. We have to ask Sanders how he's going to pay for it. The reality is there is no accurate prediction of how much Medicare for all will cost. There are many, many different projections of the cost. So a complete understanding of how we're going to tax it all in order to pay for it is not really clear. But there's a reasonably good argument that it will overall bring the costs of health down for the country. And the reason that you can make that argument pretty well is that most of the world provides equal or better healthcare, mostly better for most of the Western world, and their overall healthcare costs are lower, and they have a system that is a single-payer system. Medicare for all is moving into a single-payer system. So if the U.S. does the same thing as all these other Western countries, why would it not have the same effect? Okay, Joe Biden's saying you can get to the same place without Medicare for all. It's not exactly true. I mean, I actually like the public option. When Barack Obama suggested it back when he did, I was a big fan of it, and I was hoping that he would do it. and I hoped that Obama would have really pushed for it. The Medicare for all. A public option was significantly better than the system before the ACA. It's better than the current system. But a Medicare for all pushes it all the way to what works in Canada, Germany, France, Scandinavia. Whereas the public option is actually an experimental option. So we don't really know what the full effect of it would be. Would it be accurate to say that the U.S. is simply too big for Medicare for all? I don't think so. If it were, you could actually do a system that was state by state. In Canada, that's how they do their healthcare. Each province of Canada actually runs the bureaucracy of the healthcare within the province, whereas I think the funding for it comes from partially from the federal government, or the federal government sort of redistributes wealth from the wealthier provinces to the poorer provinces to make sure that everyone has that same level of single-payer healthcare. So the U.S. could do a system like that, but would a U.S. Medicare for all with one single bureaucracy be better or worse? Would that be too large? It would be the largest single-payer healthcare system in the world, essentially. But there are reasons to suspect that one single bureaucracy, instead of a network of many, many bureaucracies, some of them public, some of them private, is more complicated and is more inefficient than a single system. John, thanks again. Do I have a Twitter or any social media? No, I've thought about setting up a Twitter account for this channel. I have a personal one which I never use. I used to do a lot of social media for TV shows and web series and things like that. So I actually don't like most social media because I think of it as work. But I'd think about creating a Twitter for Question Time if I continue to see the channel grow, actually, the way it did last year. By the way, thank you guys so much for coming and watching my videos and supporting me and sharing, liking, all that. How are you going to keep your plan from bankrupting the country? Very neutral framing there. Very fair, very fair. Okay, Qantas, you're Canadian. Can I ask you what province you're from? Ryan Kelly as a Canadian, Canada is a fake country with no values. No, I'm saying you have no idea what you're talking about. Bernie's plan would not lower the budget. Where did you even see that? Oh, it definitely would not lower the budget. It would be the largest increase in the budget for the federal budget. It would be the most massive increase in the federal budget that we've seen since possibly ever. It's not about whether it increases the budget or not. Of course, it would make all of the healthcare sector part of the federal budget. So yeah, it would definitely increase the budget, but the question is whether it will increase or decrease the cost of providing healthcare for Americans overall. Will it actually increase the cost of providing healthcare to America, or will it decrease it? There's really good reasons to suspect it will decrease it because it will get rid of the need to extract profit. It will simplify and streamline the bureaucracies. Rather than having many corporate bureaucracies, you have one single public bureaucracy. It also you wouldn't need to extract revenue for advertising and things like that as well. Qantas, you're from Ontario, so Ontario gives you your healthcare coverage, right? And let me also ask you, Qantas, how do you feel about your healthcare? Would you prefer to move to a system like America's, or do you like the Canadian healthcare system? And also why or why not? Supplemented health. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me. Okay, you were talking to Ryan Kelly. I don't know what Ryan was saying. I thought you were saying I didn't know what I was talking about. Cheers. Elias, my voice is sounding Canadian. Yeah, it's possible. I'm living in the UK now, and before this I was living in Toronto for a long time, so... Okay, Pete Buttigieg is repeating himself here. He's made this point a lot of times that he's like, hey, listen, just because a plan is smaller doesn't mean it's small. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand his argument there. A public option is a less drastic plan than a Medicare for all. It is a smaller change. He can say that it's a better plan. Like, he should argue it's less of a change. It's more gradual change. So it's better because of that. And make an honest argument about why it's better based on that. I just don't think it connects when he says that my change that is not as much of a change as Medicare for all is just as big as Medicare for all, which would be a huge change. Sasha, have you looked into German and Australian healthcare systems? Not extensively. Rob Bray asks, how does Warren separate herself from Bernie? Well, she's also, I would argue, a progressive, but there's a lot of differences. So she's not as against foreign war. She voted for Trump's military expansion, for example. I'd say she's much more conservative in terms of foreign policy in general. She also she does not brand herself as a democratic socialist or a social democrat. She's claimed that she's a capitalist. She is more of a moderate than Bernie Sanders. Probably the biggest difference, though, is where they emphasize what they actually put their energy into. And Warren is really big on trust busting, breaking up monopolies, taking on corporations, and reducing corporate power. Bernie Sanders is very clear. Medicare for all is his top priority. He's more interested in that and foreign policy, and not that he isn't in favor of trust busting. He's certainly in favor of wealth tax. Has Question Time ever worked for a campaign? No. I've never worked for a political campaign. I never will work on a political campaign. And I will never run for public office. That is a promise. Can you explain why some estimates for Medicare for all come in at 20 to 30 trillion? No, it's really complicated. But I don't think those estimates are unrealistic. That's not an increase, by the way, in the cost of healthcare over in the private system right now. I think 20 trillion is a reduction in the overall healthcare cost. It's just changing it into being a publicly funded system rather than a private system. And there's a good follow-up. Well, then Bernie Sanders' current tax plan that everyone seems to quote, and I think what his campaign has put out is first and foremost for paying for Medicare for all, doesn't pay for the full Medicare for all system. That's true. He's also provided plenty of other potential taxes, ways of earning that revenue through taxation, mainly taxing billionaires and corporations, multimillionaires, as you would expect. Steyer wearing the same tie. Yup. It says he's a billionaire, but he has two ties and they're almost the same. John Lang, thank you again. If you can go to Twitter and see latest tweet there. Okay. Hey, John, I couldn't find at simp277. Did you mean simp underscore 277? Do you think Medicare for all is realistic given the human nature of the right and the American people? It is too partisan, in my opinion. That's from Anthony Herrera. I think it is realistic. It's certainly, I mean, implementing a single payer plan is realistic, in my opinion, because every other major country has a system like that. Will it be easily accepted by the right wing? Absolutely not. The only way that you'll get a Medicare for all system in the United States is if you have basically Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren elected as president, and you have a Democratic wave in the Senate and the House. You need both the House and the Senate to be to be blue. You need a progressive president, and you need a grassroots movement behind it. Otherwise, you're just not going to get it. Cheers. Thanks, John. Do you think mental health will be discussed in this debate? If so, do you think there'll be any new ideas for candidates to bring to the table? No, they do not talk about mental health very much. I don't think it's in the forefront of American politics. It probably should be a more talked about issue, but mental health does not get very much attention. It's actually very, very important. Thank you, Qantas, for sharing. Not surprised. Every Canadian seems to prefer their system to the U.S. system, and Canadians tend to have some understanding of the American system as well because countries are so close. Anthony asks, and that will probably never happen. Yeah. In terms of what's needed to actually get Medicare for all passed. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Doesn't mean it's not worth trying. Bob Braith, thank you so much for the $5. Hey QT, love your videos. Do you think impeachment, regardless of how damning the evidence is, has been helping or hurting Trump's 2020 prospects? Interesting question. So weirdly, my email is, for some reason, I keep getting emails from someone from Iowa, just like an older guy from Iowa. Sometimes his emails sometimes get redirected to my email. And he's been getting Trump campaign fundraising emails, and I've been reading them all. And basically since the impeachment process began, Trump's been fundraising in these emails off of impeachment. And actually, if you see his fundraising figures, I mean, he beat all the Democrats in Q4. Even Bernie Sanders, he out fundraised him. So he's been using impeachment to fundraise, and that's going to help him. Whether it helps him so it's certainly helping him right now. It's helping him to raise money, and it helps to keep his base excited. But there could potentially be a turning point if the Republicans are convinced somehow to actually convict. Then even if they don't convict and remove, or convict and bar him from running in the future, if enough Republicans vote to convict, even if they overall it's not enough conviction to actually give him a convicted impeachment, but if there's a bunch of Republicans who vote for conviction, that would be bad for Donald Trump. It would put sort of a chink in the armor. And make him look weaker, that he couldn't hold his party together. But overall, does it help or hurt him? It's more likely to help him. Impeachment, I think. That's sort of what I've thought throughout the entire process, and particularly the way that they're doing it. I think it was a mistake to focus in just on Ukraine. John Lang says, want to use this platform to support Joe. I think Joe has best policy ideas and is my number one candidate. Thanks, John. John, you're so generous to me today. Archcraft Gaming says, don't Trump and Biden both sound uneducated? No, I don't think so. Well, they're both pretty well educated. But they both sound to me as a little senile, to be honest. Joe Biden, I think, is better at speaking than Donald Trump. He speaks in complete sentences. Can bring up more complex points, I think, with more sophistication. He has more subtlety in the way that he speaks. I think he speaks at a higher reading level than Donald Trump does. At the same time, they both lose track of what they're saying sometimes. And they've both said weird things. But generally, no, I do think that Joe Biden speaks better than Donald Trump. Man, thanks again, John Lang. Joe Mama. John, you're pretty funny. Evil Auto. Impeachment doesn't impact Trump, sadly. Will impact sitting senators running this November. Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's actually why you might get Republicans voting for impeachment. I actually don't think that you will get, not very many anyway. But if you're able to successfully convince the American people, especially like Republican voters, that Trump needs to be removed from office, then yes, some some of those Republican senators would vote against him, because remember that the coalition of Trump and the Republicans are not held together through love or even shared vision for the country or ideology. There's a lot of parts of the Republican establishment that very much hates Donald Trump, but they will vote to they'll vote against convicting him if they think that it'll threaten their seat. They'll vote to convict if they think that it'll help them. Most senators operate mainly from an instinct of political survival. If they didn't, they wouldn't have become senators in the first place. I feel Andrew Yang deserves more time on policy. Yeah, no kidding. Andrew Yang was had, I think, the least speaking time in every single debate in which he participated, which is just sad because he actually has a lot of really, really interesting ideas. I particularly like him for his campaign finance and democracy improvements. I like him. Jork, thank you. Okay, can we talk about free clown college for all? Blue Dragon, I wish I could donate money. By the way, I love your channel. You don't have to donate, it's all right. Jork, what do you want to do? Free college for all is an interesting proposal. It's more left-wing than Medicare for all. I'm sorry you regret that, Jork. I didn't want you to regret that. Okay, Steyer is now saying that he's talking I talked about a wealth tax a year ago. I don't know why he keeps pushing this point, because like Bernie Sanders put it in a book in I think 1997, and I think he was interested in wealth taxes back in like the 70s. So Steyer saying that he's been into it for a year is pretty silly. What do you think Bloomberg will talk about? Well, Bloomberg's not in the debate, of course, and Bloomberg will probably never make a debate because he's not accepting, I believe he's not accepting, or at least he's not asking for, basically like small donations from individual people. So Bloomberg is not likely to make it to a debate. What will his campaign messages be about? I actually have not looked into him enough to see that, because I kind of count him out of hand. I don't find him to be a particularly interesting or electable candidate, but definitely worth looking at his website to see what policies he highlights. Richard Camarena, can Biden really beat Trump in a debate? Yes or no. I mean, there'll be people, if he wins the nomination and he debates Trump, then there's going to be people who think that Biden beat Trump in the debates, and in a lot of ways he'll probably seem more well educated on the issues, and he'll seem smarter, and in a lot of the debates. Like, I mean, Biden historically was a pretty good debater, but I don't think he'll convince conservatives or Trump supporters that he's won the debates. And I think that Trump's better at speaking to uneducated people. I think he's better at coming up with catchphrases and little mimetic phrases that people will repeat. So Trump is generally probably better at messaging. Okay, Bob Bray, thank you so much for your $5 donation. It seems no matter the issue, it's U.S. versus them, left versus right, cats versus dogs, Team Edward versus Team Jacob. How does the partisan divide get bridged? Well, I think that the most important thing is for people to talk to each other. I've always tried to encourage on my channel a little bit of that, of people coming together from different political perspectives. Even though I'm very open about the fact that I'm sort of on the left of the political spectrum, I'm very much enjoy engaging with libertarians, conservatives, moderates. I've talked to even a couple of Marxists, which is further to the left of me. I think that that's really how we come together, is talk to people, and just because they have a different ideological perspective does not mean that they're a bad person. First of all, you need to believe that people believe what they believe. You need to respect their opinions, even if you disagree with them. And you have to trust that what they're saying is really what they believe, and try to figure out why. And then you can explain why you believe what you believe. And don't make the goal of the conversation to try to convince them that you're right and they're wrong. Make the goal of the conversation to really thoroughly understand why they believe what they believe. That said, people who prefer cats versus dogs, I just don't get it. John Lang, change the world. Change the world, my final message. Goodbye. Thank you, John. You sent me a lot of donations tonight, and I really, really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Jorik, I saw Bloomberg bumper sticker over the winter vacation this year, so I think he's getting a whole lot of traction. Well, Steyer was significantly outspending all of the rest of the Democratic field, I think many times over. And then when Bloomberg started putting out his ads, Steyer kept spending tons of money, but Bloomberg outspent the entire field plus Steyer many times over in his first week. So, I mean, if money can buy you votes, which we know to be generally true in most of American politics, then, yeah, Bloomberg is gaining a lot of ground. Okay, Archcraft Gaming, conservative but love your true info in the vids. Thank you so much, Archcraft Gaming. Thank you so much. I really want this to be a welcome place for people of all different political perspectives, not just progressives and liberals like me. Akil Dervasala, I hope I said your name right. Thank you so much for your donation. What is your take on Booker leaving the race? Well, and I didn't think he had much of a chance of winning. In a way, I think it's good and generous that candidates like Booker and Castro and Kamala Harris, who all were, relatively high polling candidates, but certainly not top tier, clear the way so that we can focus on the candidates who actually have a real chance of winning. So it's sort of generous for him to leave. At the same time, I mean, he was enjoyable to watch in the debates. He was a very charismatic guy. I don't think he had any chance of winning. Glad he left in a way. But, I like the guy. And you know what? The reality is, it is a little problematic that the candidates on stage are all white now. It just doesn't look good. I really don't think I don't think we should use race or gender as what we use to elect presidents. But yeah, I mean, it isn't a good look. That one guy, thank you. Your question is, do you think that if Bernie wins the nomination, he will be able to convince Republicans to vote for him? So it depends. So Republicans who are very staunch ideological conservatives are very unlikely to vote for Bernie Sanders because he's furthest to the left. And there's a lot of conventional thinking that if you're very far to the left or very far to the right, that you're unlikely to get votes from the opposite side. Specifically, what's often focused on is you won't be able to win independents. Partly that's a myth because most independents are either conservative or liberal, and so if you're very conservative or very liberal, you have plenty of chance winning over independents because there's plenty of, for example, independents who are Marxists, who are further to the left than the Democratic Party. They'd vote for Sanders, and there's plenty of independents who are, alt-right, so they're very likely to vote for Donald Trump, and that's why he did fine. Will Bernie win over Republicans over Donald Trump? Well, there's basically two paths to it. So there's so to look at that as Republicans, there may be Republicans who are so upset with Donald Trump's behavior that they would rather sort of restore sanity, the sort of back to normal people. They would potentially like Bernie more than Donald Trump. At least Bernie Sanders won't violate the Constitution or break laws or attack the press. There's certain things that Bernie's play ball a little bit more about things that politicians tend to care about, and sometimes older people care about, which is just being more basically decorum, being polite. So some Republicans might vote for him over that. Like I have some sense that maybe even like Mitt Romney type might vote for Sanders over Trump. There actually is potential for Mormons in general to vote for even Sanders over Trump because Mormons apparently very much not happy with Donald Trump's actual personal behavior and his actual religious ignorance. Whereas evangelicals actually tend to overall support Trump pretty staunchly. The other way to read your question is, do you think Bernie can win over some of Trump's base? And the reality is, like, there clearly is quite a way for Bernie, where Bernie Sanders above other Democrats actually has an advantage, because I think a lot of Trump's support just comes from dissatisfaction with the establishment, disliking NAFTA, disliking the corrupt political process. And for example, one of the big pitches that Trump had was clean up the swamp or drain the swamp, and also he said, and he also made a big deal about self-funding his campaign so he wasn't bought by corporations and rich people. Well, Sanders is also an anti-corruption candidate, in my view, a more honest one, a better anti-corruption candidate, and in that way, will former Trump supporters who were anti-corruption, anti-establishment voters move to Sanders if they're dissatisfied with Trump's presidency in terms of its anti-establishment, anti-corruption operations? Yeah, certainly. Do Bloomberg and Steyer think they can pull a Trump? Is that why they are running? Yeah, I think they are. I think Bloomberg definitely thinks that. I'm starting to think Steyer is sort of joined just as to be a sort of cheerleader for the Democrats. He's been very positive in his debates recently. He really hasn't criticized the other candidates, so Steyer might just be in there for messaging. He thinks that he has an improved chance of affecting the dialogue of the primary race this way. Whereas Bloomberg, I think, sincerely believes he can win. Do you legitimately think you could, Andrew Yang could beat Trump? Could he even get the Democrats behind him? Well, there's reasonable electability arguments for Andrew Yang that are similar to the Bernie Sanders arguments from 2016 and even today, which is there is a very big anti-establishment drive, I think, in the American population. It's part of why Trump was able to be elected. It's why Bernie Sanders did so well in 2016 and is continuing to do well. But I think that Andrew Yang is early on in his political career right now. Like, I think Andrew Yang's place is in the future. I think he's going to continue to affect American politics for a long time. And I think his real shot at becoming the president might be a few cycles from now. Willie Lee, I'm not a Bernie guy, but I've always been open to being convinced. Why is Bernie your choice? For a lot of reasons. I am quite progressive. I would consider myself to be a social democrat. So there's a lot of stuff to go over. But I think the best argument for right now is that he is really the best chance of getting a Medicare for all system, a single-payer healthcare system. Why do you want that? Well, look at if you just look at healthcare outcomes versus healthcare costs around the world, the United States pays way more for healthcare and gets lower, worse outcomes overall. If you just look up the data on this, then it, I think, will convince you that a single-payer system is the best one. Bernie Sanders is definitely your best chance of actually getting that. So I think that's the best argument for Sanders. It's a lot of other reasons, too. I think he's more honest than most of the other politicians. He is not bought by big money interests and corporations. He really is a grassroots candidate, and I like that about him. I think that's sort of inherently likable. Which candidates in the Democratic race would you really question voting between them and Trump? Currently, of the mainstream candidates, I prefer them all to Trump. The ones that give me the most pause are probably Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg. I don't see a point replacing one self-funded billionaire with another. I'm not interested in having billionaires with no experience buy their way in. So Steyer really gives me a lot of pause, especially at least Bloomberg has some experience in politics, but as mayor of New York, I don't think that's sufficient experience. And I really don't like a lot of his policies and his history. Who else? Let's see, who's currently in the race who I would... Yeah, no, I think I'd support any of them over Trump. Yeah. I'm just looking at the list now. Yeah. Some excitedly, some hold your nose, but yeah, I don't think there's anyone running for the Democratic nomination that is worse, definitely worse than Trump. QT, I like Biden, but Yang banged me hard. What should I do? I just thank him. Well, I mean, you should vote for who you like, I guess. But, I mean, you can also consider strategic voting. Like, Biden does have a better chance of winning. Why not vote third party? I don't like voting third party usually because I'm more of a strategic voter. But if you support a third party more than you like the Republicans or the Democrats, there's no reason why you shouldn't vote for a third party. Especially if you would not vote normally. Like if it's between not voting and voting for a third party, get out there and vote for the third party. Absolutely. Who are even the third party candidates? I don't think they've been decided yet, but you're going to look into the Libertarian Party, and the Green Party probably is the biggest third parties. John Lang. Oh, man. Thoughts on Steyer getting diagnosed with ligma. Does anyone want to know what that is? Ligma. If the big politicians see an unusual amount of votes going toward the face-eating leopard party, they will start investing in face-eating leopards. Yeah, that's true. It's not an actual party, but that's sub in face-eating leopards, and that's exactly right. John. Yeah, I know, John. I know the joke. I was hoping someone would ask in the comments. Jeremy Green with a shout out for Vermin Supreme. Vote Vermin Supreme 2020 for a state mandated pony. That is true. That is one of many policies by Vermin Supreme. Vermin Supreme also, I believe, promises to increase time travel research and time travel awareness. Few other things. What else does he stand for, Jeremy? Yeah, I described this in an older video from last year as universal basic ponies. Okay, so they're asking Buttigieg about black voters, which is so it's two things. So it is a little unfair to say he's not getting the black vote. They've had enough chance to support him, and they're not supporting him. And it's very similar kind of situation that Bernie Sanders was in back in 2016. Very often, a new Democratic candidate, so I mean, the New Democrat caucus. So, like Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden will get the support of black voters by default, for a variety of reasons. Bill Clinton has had a long-standing great relationship with the with black Democrats. Joe Biden was Obama's VP, things like that. So there's a big front-runner candidate who's scooping up a lot of the black votes. So the other candidates don't have as much chance to have that support. So that's part of it. On the other hand, Pete Buttigieg does have legitimate. Black people do have legitimate grievances with certain things that with Buttigieg, but it is partly unfair to put it all on him, because a lot of it is about Biden scooping up those votes. The debate is still going, guys. Yeah, I agree. I don't know why he decided to call himself Democratic Socialist instead of Social Democrat. He always references Sweden, and Swedish people are very insistent that their system is social democratic, not democratic socialist. Great question for Steyer right there. Absolutely, Magrock. John Lang again. John, you're the best. Thank you so much. You know what else is still going on? Got him. Elias, John Lang as a god. Yeah, John Lang becoming a god, putting hard-earned money out there to entertain y'all with funny jokes. So I appreciate it. John Lang just piped in another $2 to say that he hates Blue Dragon. Guys, it's all love. It's all love. It's interesting that Pete Buttigieg keeps talking about religion and Christianity. Two big problems with it. One good thing about it, one bad thing about it. The bad thing about it, which is obvious to me, is that the United States should be a secular country. Republicans and Democrats should agree to that. There should not be a religious conversation to discuss who should be the president. It should not be a religious conversation. The Republican Party sometimes skirts the line and becomes more religious than it really ought to be. The Democrats are better at maintaining secularism. Buttigieg making it about religion cedes that ground, and then we lose secularism. Great. So that's the negative side of talking about Christianity. The positive side is that usually Republicans have great bona fides when it comes to Christianity, and they convince Christians that they're the party of Jesus. Whereas Donald Trump, I think, is almost certainly an atheist or agnostic. He certainly isn't a very well-informed Christian. He's not theologically literate, I would argue. I mean, I remember in the 2016 campaign, he referred to Corinthians 2. I mean, if you know anything about the Bible, that's not what you say. You know, 2 Corinthians. So I think the interesting thing about Buttigieg talking about Christianity is that he could actually probably beat Trump in an argument about Christianity, because Buttigieg is, first of all, quite educated generally, but second of all, he is, it seems, a very sincere Christian. Really, at least he's convincingly a sincere Christian. John Lang with yet another donation. Okay, on a serious note, look up the real John Lang. Mugger Rock found it, apparently. Thank you again, John Lang. Yeah, John Lang is apparently secretly Michael Bloomberg. He cannot get the evangelical vote solely because he's gay. Bob Bray, that's probably a good point. He could maybe pull some evangelical votes. Blue Dragon, I have a question for you, question time. Do you want to run for president, or have you ever considered running for it, or any other public office? Good question. I have never seriously considered running for any public office. I will never run for public office, especially not president. I am not interested in that level of power. I'm not interested in that level of scrutiny. Elias Durlam, you keep saying we, but you live in the UK. How do you vote, and why are you in the UK? I'm in the UK. I just moved to the UK over the holidays. So I'm newly in the UK. I'm not a citizen of the United Kingdom. My wife my wife's a chemist. She's a scientist, and she got a professorship here. So we basically had to move out here, and I can work from anywhere. So I like to live with my wife, so that's why I'm here. Okay. So we're now on a commercial break. Okay, John Lang is putting the putting a sock in Blue Dragon's mouth. Don't answer any Blue Dragon 257 questions or no more money. He's getting me with the bribery. What do you guys think about that? I like any politicians. I do what my donors say. Richard Camarina III says, strip or no more money, JK, stay alive on YouTube, please. Thank you so much, Richard. Reed says, Blue, I'll ask your questions so you won't be excluded. Very clever. Very clever. Elijah Colbert asks, how will you vote in the election? I like Sanders. Bob Bray, John Lang Super PAC for America, TM. John Lang, by the way, does not hate Reed. Rob Bray is a big John Lang supporter, by the way, guys. Why is this chat becoming a corrupt political system? Yeah, you guys are seeing it in action now. So, the big donors, when they dominate. This is why you have campaign finance rules and why we should probably have more. Oliver Rayner, question time. What do you think about Steyer's views on term limits? I'm not that interested in term limits, to be honest. I think it's a pretty small proposal. Is the debate still on? It should be coming to an end soon, but it's technically just on commercial. So I think they're going to come back and ask some more silly questions. They're probably going to have that final question where they're like, can you say something nice about someone that you hate? Something like that. Oh, how will I be able to vote from the UK? I don't know. I may not be able to. But I'm able to project my influence by just telling you guys my opinions. Hopefully I have some impact anyway. It is possible to vote, though, from the outside. Okay, John Lang, I believe, has now put the sock in Reed's mouth. Oh, Bobby Gain, Sir Bobbit. Good to see you, Sir Bobbit. If the Democratic candidate had to choose only one Democratic issue to take into the election against Trump, what should it be? I actually think healthcare, probably. I remember when Michael Moore put out his documentary Sicko, and he's pretty lefty. He's a socialist. There were a lot of conservatives and Republicans who actually praised his movie. I mean, I think one thing that a lot of Americans agree on is that the American system is problematic with healthcare. There's a lot of serious problems. John Lang, you can't silence all non-John Lang discussion. That's a lot, man. It's funny if you mute button one or two people, but you can't. Come on, John. Sir Bobbitt, let me know if I answered your question well enough. I do think Medicare for all, or even a public option, is probably the thing to bring in. Trump really hasn't done much to improve healthcare. I think a Democrat should push that issue. Guys, if you want to unsock people that John Lang has put a sock in their mouth, you can unsock them by doing exactly what he's done. Okay, Mayor Pete Buttigieg just said, put him in the dustbin of history, which I think that's a Trotsky quote. Someone look that up. Dustbin of history. I think that comes from Leon Trotsky. Thoughts on Boris Johnson? He seems to be the Donald Trump of the United Kingdom. He's even got the silly hair. He speaks better. He's got a better voice. I'll give him that. But yeah, he seems pretty clownish, to be honest. But I don't think he's actually as extreme, and I don't think he has as much of a populist following. I don't think he represents the populist right quite as much as Donald Trump does. I mean, to some extent, but not nearly as much. John Lang. Josh Kurtzer is officially not moderator. Oh, I don't have any moderators. I don't think you needed to do that to get that. And John Lang, thank you so much for all your donations and your zaniness. You're making this fun. Was I right about Dustbin of History? Yeah, Trotsky. Patriot, will you attend me and John Lang's wedding? Absolutely. Send me an invitation. Who was your favorite candidate from the 2016 Republican debates? I mean, Trump obviously did the best in those debates. He dominated the debates. I think I don't know, I'm like a little sympathetic to Rand Paul because I liked the kind of honesty of Ron Paul. He was a genuine libertarian. I liked the audit the Fed thing and his non-interventionalism. Rand Paul wasn't quite as serious on those things, but not bad. Yeah, not Ron Paul, but he was okay. Also, what's his name? Okay, I'm gonna look it up. 2016 Republican primaries, just so I see everyone was in there. But when you're looking at the top four between Trump, Cruz, Rubio, and Kasich, I liked Kasich the best out of them, even though he did the poorest out of the four. Yeah. If I had to vote in the 2016 Republican primary, probably would have voted for John Kasich or possibly Rand Paul. Yeah, everyone else was pretty terrible from my perspective. Ugh, yeah, wow. A lot of really bad contenders. Elijah Colbert, can you do candidate by candidate videos on their policies? Yeah, I've actually been thinking about doing something like that. Absolutely. John Lang, can I be mod? By the way, me and Patriot 483 wedding. Okay. Okay, you're now a moderator. You can be funny, John, but like don't be too crazy with it. Hey, Kevel. Kevel pushing for Sexy Vegan 2020. When am I going to do this debate breakdown? Oh, yeah, sorry. Just general information. That's very important to ask. I will be doing a videos. I'm going to... Bob Bray, I've done videos on foreign policy before. They don't tend to do as well. Because there's not really that much interest in them, but I actually care a lot about foreign policy. I don't do them nearly as often as I'd like to. Now, the next video you guys are probably interested in is a sort of winners and losers video, which I'm gonna try to get it out for Friday. That's my goal. I'll see if I can do it. Definitely. I'm going to try to get it done as soon as possible. I'll do a winners and losers video, and then probably a big moments breakdown. Both should be out within the next 10 days. But the winners and losers, I try to turn around as quickly as possible. Usually I have the benefit of watching the debate really closely in preparation for making that video. But this time I just decided to live stream and see how that goes. I'm actually surprised I made it. I'm pretty tired. Best clip from this debate, Biden randomly coming in at the end of that "can there be a woman" thing saying, "I believe that there can be a woman president." John Lang says, Steyer. Who do you guys think won the debate? Actually going to put out a community post. going to put a community post out so you guys can vote for who you thought won, unless you thought that Steyer won, because he will not be an option. I can only put 5 options up, and come on, no one's voting for Steyer. Okay, I don't know if you guys are watching the CNN stream, but thank goodness for Anderson Cooper, words I don't often say, because the panelists who have seen kind of smearing Sanders in the past is just like, it wasn't a good enough answer for Bernie Sanders to say he said, she said on it because it's been reported. And then Cooper accurately points out, yeah, it's reported as a he said, she said. She said he said it, and he disagreed. So yeah, it's not yeah, it didn't happen. Or it did happen. We don't know. It is he said, she said, though. Oh, but it was reported by CNN. Oh, well, it must be true then. Okay, John Lang, you're now an option. John Lang, you're killing the votes for who also won the 7th Democratic debate. Currently, you're at 79%. Which is beating Bernie Sanders in the real vote tally. He currently has 69%. Second place, Elizabeth Warren at 14%, Joe Biden at 10%. Amy Klobuchar at 4%. Pete Buttigieg currently losing with 3%. And even amongst the joke candidates, Tom Steyer at 0% currently. Well behind the frontrunner, John Lang, who is even beating Andrew Yang. I've never seen an online poll where Andrew Yang came in second. So yeah, John Lang dominating the live vote. Kevo, who is Emily? I actually think Emily and Pete did a pretty good job. I don't know who Emily is. John Lang. Anyone who didn't vote for Lang is a commie. Send the CNN moderators to the gulags. John Lang running for head of Republican? Okay. Do you think that Bernie could win even though he is trailing on Biden in Iowa now? Yeah, I mean, it's very, very close. Sanders could win it. Biden could win it. Buttigieg could win it. You're very likely to see those three in the top three. And it's really anyone's race at this point for Iowa. It's really, this debate will actually really affect that. So I'm going to do my breakdown for the winners and losers of this debate. Hopefully that will be indicative of who actually will take Iowa. Vulgar Potato, what will you do after the election? Like on the channel, content-wise? Well, I'll continue to follow big politics stories. There's always things to talk about in the politics world. Probably get into, if you guys like it, probably talk about not just big news stories and do media analysis, but also talk about big policy ideas in better depth. Also, I'd really like to be driven more by questions that you guys and topics that you guys are interested in. So when you guys request topics for videos in the comment section, like, that really matters to me. I know it's sometimes people might get frustrated if they request something over and over again, but if I see the same topic requested a lot, then I do eventually make the video about it. Like the idea of doing a video about VP choices for Joe Biden, for example, I never would have done that if it wasn't requested so much. Like, I did it for Bernie Sanders because I saw something in an interview. The video did relatively well, and then a lot of people wanted to see it for Joe Biden, so I did it. Marianne dropped out, man. Yep, she dropped out. Question time. Can you talk to Progressive Voice? I don't know what about. I think I need to get into some kind of beef or scandal with someone. Question time. Are you Bernie or bust? I am not Bernie or bust. Bernie's my favorite candidate, but yeah, no. I mean, I think you should vote for the best of the available options. So Robert Gain asks, would you do an Iran video? I didn't. I did a Iran video a while back talking about what the potential consequences of a war would be, and how it's not the same thing as the Iraq War. It's something I'm very interested in. So, I mean, I've been quite dismayed at the recent stuff going on. So, yeah, I could make a video about the recent shenanigans. Oh, this is interesting live feed about... That's weird. I don't know if you saw that footage, but it's just Warren and Sanders talking, and it looked a little aggressive. Let's see. Question time. Can you rank progressive shows on YouTube? I'm probably haven't seen all the really great ones. I think there's always very good hidden gems. But I would say I do tend to really like Secular Talk and The Rational National, which you guys actually... I had never seen Rational National, and then some viewers of this channel thought I was Rational National. So I checked out his show and I actually liked it quite a bit. I find myself agreeing with him quite a bit, and I tend to agree with Kyle Kulinski on most things as well. The Young Turks I actually started watching a long time ago. At probably like 2010 or maybe before that. Maybe 2008, maybe as early as 2008 I started watching the Young Turks. I've watched them for a long time. There was a time when I watched them every day. Not so much anymore. I've just sort of have grown tired of how many commercials and things that they have, and I think the research level is not what it was. And they're kind of repetitive, but I think they're fine. I think there's just like there's only so much you can you can watch a show when it's pretty much the same kind of stuff over and over again. But yeah, I still like David Doel or whatever it is. Yeah, for Rational National, he's interesting. He's sort of a new guy that I've been watching, and yeah, I've always liked secular talk. My only beef with Kyle Kulinski is sometimes he jokes around too much. I don't want him to get to the point. Do I know David Pakman? Yeah, I mean, I'm probably to the left of David Pakman. I think he's liberal, but I think he's a little to my right. There's times when I disagree with him. But he's pretty similar, so it's an awkward zone. I like watching people who I vehemently disagree with, or have very, very different ideology, or are in the same sort of lane as me. Jimmy Dore. I think Jimmy Dore is super funny, but I don't really watch his channel very regularly. Kevel says, if I was president, my healthcare plan would be a free apple a day. That's funny. Is Yang gaining on Lang? Okay, I gotta refresh it. Refresh my community page. Oh man, guys, yeah. Andrew Yang is now up at 40% in the live vote with 318 votes cast. John Lang is now down to 27%. So, if you want John Lang to win Iowa, you're gonna have to pull some energy over to that post. I am seriously concerned that Andrew Yang may beat John Lang in this. Humanist Report. The Humanist Report is fine. It's not my it's not my bag. I don't know. I don't want to say anything mean, but just the presentation isn't for me. And I think Humanist Report is more like, I don't know, not really more socially lefty than me, but more like into the cultural left stuff. Whereas, economics is really what I really care. Like, I care about the economics and foreign policy. I care about really hard matters. Whereas Humanist Report, I think, tends to talk more about, social justice, culture issues, which I don't really care about. This is a very scientific poll going on my community post. Who also won the 7th Democratic debate? Andrew Yang currently at 40%, John Lang 27%. I'm just going to hit refresh, see if we get any change there, any movement. Oh no. This is bad news for John Lang. John Lang is now down to 25%. Andrew Yang with 44%. Khadija Muhammad says, I really hope the Warren-Sanders thing doesn't cause Sanders to take a big hit. Yeah, I hope not. I really think that it's better for the progressive movement if the left can stay relatively united and not try to tear each other apart. I think it's good for the two to keep it together. Pepper Troop, will you do more RIP videos for candidates who drop out? So for anyone who doesn't know what Pepper's talking about, I do sort of comedic tributes to the departed campaigns as they leave. I think some people were wigged out that I hadn't done one on Julian Castro yet. It's partly just because I'm sort of I've been rushing to make sure that my content gets done recently, just because honestly, actually, my production has been held back by my move to the UK. But yeah, I certainly will be doing those. I will be doing those tribute videos. I'll pop them in soon. Maybe on my winners and losers if I can, or the next one after that. How will regional popularity in Iowa affect the primary? Well, it's not natural regional popularity, but Buttigieg certainly has inflated numbers in Iowa. And you see lower numbers for Bloomberg, who chose not to campaign there, for example. Warren is, I think, doing worse than average there, whereas you see more viewership for, more support for Sanders, Biden, and Buttigieg basically deflated for everyone else. Would you consider ever making videos on Canadian politics? I would consider it if there was something that was, I thought, important beyond just Canada. Nothing against Canada, just I don't find Canadian politics to be like internationally significant most of the time. Whereas American politics, the great thing about it is it's not just important in America. I mean, the whole world cares about American politics because it matters. America's the most powerful country in the world. I've actually mentioned Canadian politics in some old videos. I haven't done videos exclusively about it, but I did, for example, a video about third-party candidates. And I think in that one I talked a lot about how the NDP grew and how it. I also think I talked about how it contributed to creating the universal healthcare system in Canada. Bob Ray, this debate kind of lame. Thoughts? I think so. I mean, there were two interesting moments in the first bit, and then there wasn't too much that really caught my attention as particularly awesome later in the debate, but also I've been completely distracted by talking to you guys. So I'm definitely gonna rewatch this a few times before putting out my winners and losers video. But there might be more interesting stuff that we just missed from just being too engaged on this live stream. Jed Gangman, which candidates do you view as unfavorable? Do I personally view as unfavorable? Like who I don't like? I don't like Bloomberg and Steyer pretty much. They're my least favorite among the Democrats because I do not like the idea of billionaire self-funding campaigns and just converting money into political power. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. Which are the most unfavorable in the Democratic Party? Well, according to polling, Bloomberg has incredibly high unfavorability rates amongst Democrats, according to the polls that I've seen. Tulsi Gabbard also has a high unfavorability rate, unfavorable to favorable. So net favorability is quite low for both Tulsi Gabbard and Michael Bloomberg. Birchtree, what do you think about Ojeda running for U.S. Senate? Could he win or put up a good fight? I mean, it's possible. It's West Virginia. It's a small state. He is sort of leaping from state Senate to U.S. Senate. It's kind of a big leap. Usually you would want to go to be a member of Congress first. But it's possible. I mean, I think he's very charismatic. He has pretty widespread exposure. He did have in a sense, he had the most successful post Trump election race in the entire country, having moved a Trump district further by the most percentage points over to Democratic. He still lost, but it was the biggest swing of any race in that year. When we get in a Wu-Tang retrospective, asks Evil Otto. Yeah, I mean, I did that Wu-Tang video a long time ago, and I haven't really done much in the whole culture area for a while, but it might be something if a lot of people are interested in that I'd love to do again on the channel, perhaps after the election is over. I do really like hip-hop, and I used to do a lot of work in hip-hop YouTube. Is there any way to see the debate? Yeah, well, I'll give you the live stream right now. I don't think there's a way to download it yet until CNN's done their live stream. Then there should be ways that you can hook it up. Oh, also, no offense taken that you want to that you don't want to rely on my channel alone about the Democratic debate. The only way to really be informed is to check multiple news sources and to look at things directly as much as possible. So, if you have the time to watch the debate, you should watch the debate. Bars on bars. Yeah, I miss Yang too, Nigel. Oh, Bob Ray asking, so you telling me you'd vote Kanye 2020? Well, Kanye is not really running. And no, I think I would vote for Trump over Kanye. Barely. Who is John Lang? Someone explain. Oh, John Lang has just been dominating this live stream. John Lang has donated quite generously in the live stream. So, and made a lot of jokes, and he's a pretty funny guy. So he's now built a little cult following within the context of this live stream right now. And we'll see if he starts a cult, and if it all goes to his head, and we'll see what he does with the new power he has just earned. But I'd definitely like to see. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens with John Lang. Speaking of which, let's check in on our community post poll. Oh. Well, John Lang is still in second place now, 20%, but Andrew Yang has really lifted up to 48%, who also won the 7th Democratic debate. Mind you, none of these candidates were actually in this debate, except for Tom Steyer, and he is polling in dead last. Just 5% of the also won category. Andrew Yang, John Delaney, John Lang, and Donald Trump all beating Tom Steyer, the only one who is actually in this debate. In terms of the top five, Bernie Sanders is now at 73%, Elizabeth Warren 10%, Pete Buttigieg 6%, Joe Biden 5%, tied with Amy Klobuchar also at 5%. So even though the progressives were sort of fighting somewhat for this debate, both of them are running at the top, at least in terms of this incredibly scientific poll, with just 465 votes in. And also, obviously, it's you guys who watch this channel, so I think my audience leans progressive, so not really surprising. I get the feeling that Klobuchar might be able to bag Bernie's VP slot since Warren is obviously not thought. I don't agree. I do not agree. I think that... John Lang asked Wu-Tang Clan or Tribe Called Quest. I love Tribe Called Quest, but Wu-Tang is for the children. But anyway, I do not think that Klobuchar would be Bernie's VP pick. She's too far to the right in the party. There's not much ideological alignment, and even if he moves on from Warren, I think Andrew Yang would be a better choice. I think even Tulsi Gabbard would be a reasonable choice. I think he would seriously consider Cory Booker. I think he'd even seriously consider Kamala Harris. I think a great choice would be Nina Turner, even though she's already, a campaign chair, and she's busy. She's got a lot of things going on, but Nina Turner would be really interesting. Everyone, I think pretty much every Bernie Sanders supporters likes Nina Turner, so I think she'd be a fun option. She's probably the greatest American orator in politics today. Bob Bray, Biden isn't an exciting moderate like Obama, and Obama was popular because he seemed more progressive than he was. Yeah, that's true. Obama, very exciting, very... thank you, Mike Avery. Biden, he's not as well spoken as Obama. Obama was incredibly good at giving speeches. He also did seem like a revolutionary candidate. Everything from the way he spoke to his campaign posters. So, and also, look, honestly, the fact that he's black was a big deal at the time. John Lang just deleted Rob Bray's comment, but come on, man, that's abusing it. Like, Bob Bray's donating. Come on, John. I'm waiting for a John Lang political scandal that will challenge his candidacy. It's pretty funny, and it's pretty funny that you deleted it too, actually. But now I have to protect Rob Bray. Okay, so now the CNN live stream is just Klobuchar's interview. She, believe it or not, she believes that she's electable. So that's pretty cool. Tim Ryan. Thanks, Swalwell. Thanks, John. Eric Swalwell, fantastic VP pick. Pass the torch. Maybe Stacey Abrams as Bernie VP. Yeah, I've actually been thinking that. It's actually interesting. Stacey Abrams may be the only person who reasonably could be chosen by Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. She's obviously Joe Biden's first choice at this point. But I've been thinking about redoing or sort of doing an update to the Bernie Sanders running mate video because I think quite a lot has changed since I first did that video. So I was thinking about updating it, and one of the people who came to mind as someone who might actually be worth talking about for it is Stacey Abrams. Pass the torch. Ryan Kelly, if you go to my community page, you should be able to find that community post. It's the most recent post, so you can go vote for John Lang. I don't know if you can share community post. I guess not. Oh, CNN is actually asking Klobuchar an interesting question. You haven't gone after Biden. Why is that? John Lang, why is your reign over? Who's John Lang? That's funny, Jeremy. Elias, opinions on the current state of rap. Well, I mean, like, I like 90s rap. It's my favorite. But, I mean, like, every generation just says that the next generation's music is not good and they're worried about it and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think it is true that SoundCloud has sort of made hip-hop a lot about quantity over quality, which is a problem. But there's still good music being made. Sorry, John Lang. I think I said John Yang because I was looking at the polls. Biggie versus Tupac? Oh. It's Biggie Smalls, man. Notorious B.I.G. No disrespect to Tupac, but yeah, Biggie. Yeah, Postromo. Um, it looked like a weird moment. I'm gonna have to play back the videotape and watch it again. The awkward moment between Bernie and Warren talking. It looked kind of like aggressive between them the whole time, and then Tom Steyer coming in and awkwardly intervening. Like, why was Steyer there? What did he have to do with that? Yeah, it's just weird. Although, who knows? They could have been talking about anything. John Lang, is your wife asleep? Yeah, my wife is not only asleep, but is now coming in at close to 5 a.m. in the UK. And she's actually going to be probably getting up for work in about half an hour to an hour because she goes in super early. So also QT, considering you'll be in the UK, will you do some Brexit videos? I still have no idea how they're still stuck on it. Yeah, I have no idea either. I mean, I made a Brexit video way back in the day where I kind of predicted what I thought would happen. And it's probably right about some stuff, but I definitely thought they would have had it resolved by now, and I thought they would have basically reduced Brexit into being a nothing burger. I thought they would have had an incredibly soft Brexit by now, but yeah, it's been. I underestimated Europe's interest in punishing the UK, I think, and I think I underestimated Parliament's inability to cope with that and move on. Brexit is definitely an example of uninformed population voting on something they don't understand. Yeah, to some extent. I mean, look, when the Brexit vote was first happening, there were so many issues that I think most people were not thinking about, like the border of Northern Ireland with Ireland. I don't think many people gave that much of a thought, and that's turned out to be a big serious problem with it. I think more people were talking about at the time the how Scotland would feel about it all, since they had just voted to remain in the UK. So yeah, I actually do not know how they're dealing with that border, but I'd have to look into it. Oh, John, you have been incredibly generous. You do not have to give me more cash, dude. I humbly appreciate. Thank you so much, John. Gamer ABC asks, what policies do you think Democrats should avoid in their platform to appeal to a broader base? In my opinion, Democrats should give up guns because it's such a one policy issue for many. Guns is an interesting issue to talk about because I think I was urging throughout much of his presidential run, Beto O'Rourke to get out of the race and go run for Senate. But the fact that he came out so strongly in favor of regulation and very generally anti-gun, anti-NRA has probably put a serious damper in his career in Texas, because in Texas they love their guns. So, John, Nah, John, don't ban anyone, man. Okay, the CNN live stream is back. I don't know if you guys are watching. Grimless Stand, thoughts on Amy Klobuchar's ties to Big Sugar? I don't have many. Let me see. Oh, shit. Here's an interesting article about that, Grim. I have not done enough research into this topic, Grim, to just talk about it live. So, because I don't want to smear anyone or give you guys false information. So I'll look into it. We'll try to include it in an upcoming video. Sacred Stars asks, will CNN ever warm up to Sanders? No. CNN, for as long as Bernie's been a significant national figure, which I would say began around 2015. I mean, he still did a lot of great work before that, but he wasn't really in national prominence until his primary run. But since then, I mean, they've been very close to openly hostile to Sanders, and I don't think that will ever change because of the main reasons why they're probably hostile to him in the first place. Primarily, I think his rejection of the campaign finance system is not good for news organizations that benefit from campaign ads. It's also why, for example, Andrew Yang is generally ignored by mainstream media because he also is in favor of campaign finance reform, like serious campaign finance reform, public funding. Also, I've heard that CNN's leadership were very direct Hillary Clinton supporters. So, do you think Biden will be Hillary 2.0? Asks Rob Ray. For the most part, yes. The only way that I see Biden as very different than Hillary Clinton is that Hillary Clinton was one of the most unpopular presidential nominees ever for either major party. Donald Trump is the only candidate more disfavored, unfavored, with low net favorability than Hillary Clinton, whereas Joe Biden is second or third most favorable Democrat in the country, pretty much, major Democrat anyway. He's quite liked overall. So, VP me, Mr. Corn. Let's see. Gun rights are too ingrained in American politics and culture. Yeah, I mean, people are very partisan over guns. It becomes a very emotional and charged issue, which discussions across party lines on it, or across, like, from liberals to conservatives, end up being about, like, oh, you hate the Constitution, you want to burn the Constitution, and then the other side is saying, like, oh, you want babies to be shot in schools. Like, it becomes such a heated conversation that becomes unproductive. So, yeah, it's a sticky issue that could probably use some calmer discourse. Could you beat Joe Biden in a push-up competition? No, I don't think I could. Some of the other competitions that he offered up to that older gentleman that he was arguing with, maybe. But I can't do that many push-ups. I feel like Joe Biden maybe has that one in his wheelhouse. He's got it ready for if someone disagrees with him, he'll challenge them to the push-up contest. Calamity asks, as a Canadian-American dual citizen currently living in Canada, is there anything I could or should do to support Bernie's candidacy? If you're an American citizen, you can still vote. I don't know how you vote in a primary. I don't know how, but you should find out. Because I don't know which state you get to vote in. Yeah, you should vote. If you're an American citizen, I think you can also donate. I think as long as you're a citizen, you can donate even if you live abroad, but you should look up those rules. But actually, I think what Sanders wants most is volunteers. So, although even from far away, you can, I think, volunteer to do phoning for candidates. Yo, Mr. QT, I gotta say John Delaney aced. Yeah, I think John Delaney had a perfect performance tonight, for sure. Bob Ray, Biden seems kind of fit. Yeah, he seems to be in good shape. I mean, not in John Delaney good shape, but pretty good shape. John Delaney could definitely beat me in a push-up contest. I don't know why Tom Steyer keeps talking about who can beat Mr. Trump, because as soon as there's reliable head-to-head polling coming out between Steyer and Trump, if anyone ever bothers to ask that question in a serious survey, I mean, he's going to lose. I have very, very... there's very, very little chance that Steyer could actually beat Trump in the head-to-head polls. Question time. Do you think the media is propping up Warren just to prevent Sanders' presidency? Yeah, I think there was some of that going on. I don't know how well it worked. I do think that Politico was really hoping for a Sanders-Warren feud when they published their article. I think it was somewhat successful, but I don't think it'll actually... I really think that this may be the end of the conflict right now. I think they're going to calm down and move on. Bob Ray, Steyer could not beat a pet rock. Yeah. Well, let's just look at the electability of my community post question. So I put up a question that said... you would vote for Steyer if it were between him and, 1, any Republican or Democrat. 1% said yes, they would vote for Steyer over any Republican or Democrat. You would vote for Steyer if it were between him and any Republican. 18%. You would vote for Steyer if it were between him and Donald Trump. 27%. You would vote for Steyer if it were between him and a houseplant. 10%. You would vote for Steyer if it were between him and certain death. 43% said Steyer over certain death. That was where they drew the line. And they didn't actually have an option where people will choose certain death over Steyer. So really the question was biased in Steyer's favor, and still 43 would choose certain death. Total of 53 would choose either a houseplant or certain death over Steyer. Okay, let's see. Hey, thanks, Cameron. Jeremy Nicome asks, how concerning is Tulsi Gabbard labeling Mueller report as no conclusion? I'm not sure if she said that. I saw a different answer about impeachment. She said that she had a problem with the process, and that's why she was voting present and not against impeachment or for it. Now, she was, I think, the only Democrat to not vote for it, for impeachment. Her protest of the process honestly feels to me like a drive for attention, because honestly, it's the process was very fair. I mean, was it? Did Republicans cooperate with the process? No, but was the process laid out to be very fair to give Republicans basically equal opportunity through every step of the way? Yeah, it was. I mean, you can go and read the resolution. I did a video about it, talked about it. It's pretty even. Bob Bray, Tulsi voted present. That killed her campaign. Honestly, like, she did not have a chance of getting the nomination anyway, which was already quite unfavorable amongst Democrats. So she didn't really have much of a chance either way. I think Tulsi very often does sort of mavericky moves. Sometimes it's great that she does do it, but I think that's sort of her vibe with her. And sometimes I'm disappointed by them, and sometimes I'm pleased by them. Her vote on impeachment, I didn't get it. I didn't see why. I don't think that. It's hard for me to see the sincerity of it. It really reminds me of when she came out against the Green New Deal, saying, "Oh, it's not a real solution." Yeah, it's not supposed to be. It's a resolution to say these are the things that we're hoping to work towards. It's a general framework for these are some things that you should do. And you can either vote against it or for it. But if you just say, "Oh, I'm not for it because it doesn't do anything on its own," that's nonsense. That's bringing a banana to a gun contest. It's not a real answer. Dean Hunter asks, you think that killed her chances for a Sanders VP? Yeah. I think it hurt her for becoming a Sanders VP. I think that the Green New Deal thing, the vote on impeachment, a few things like that. Also, like, just being a little too kind with Modi, to be honest. I think those are all things that maybe kind of raise red flags. And just in general, the effect of her favorability within the Democratic Party being polling so low makes her not really much of an asset politically. I don't think that Sanders has like a personal problem with her, but I don't think that she's likely to be picked because she's just strategically not the best option. You know who was a real maverick? John Delaney. I like how he slides down a slide. Could you make a feature-length video pertaining to the brilliant campaign masterminded by President-elect John Delaney? Absolutely, one day. Question time: more live stream? on later debates? Yeah, I think so. This was pretty fun. What do you guys think? You guys want more live stream? John, you really made it worthwhile for me with actually donating. Also, Rob Bray and a few others. I want to really thank you guys for donating. That actually made it really worthwhile. Grimless Stand. Who else donated? Okay, I can't scroll up any further than that. But there were others. A bunch of you send in donations. John Lang obviously dominated Rob Bray with multiple donations as well. So thank you guys so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. So you guys want to see? So February's got 3 debates. You guys want live streams for all of those guys? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do it again. I just have to stay up late, but it's no worries. I ain't got nothing else to do. Okay, so now on CNN, they're actually at the point where they're interviewing Steyer. So yeah, so it's getting pretty late for me. So I'm probably gonna pack it in pretty soon. Are live streams rewatchable? I want to listen to this later since I missed it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna make it like a big public video, but I think I'll like unlist it and I'll link it from my predictions video, and I'll link it from something else so that you can still find it if you look for it. So if you look in the description box of my next video, and in the description box, thank you, Cat Like Pete. Klobuchar was hilarious tonight. She certainly was. She always is. So yeah, I'll have this video unlisted, but I'll put a link in some of my recent videos so that you can see it. I'll probably put like a comment as well, so you can find it if you look it around. I just don't want to make it a public video because that'll probably affect my channel standing in the algorithm, because this won't get as many views as most of my content, I'm pretty sure. Also, if you're a patron, I'll post the link in to my Patreon page. You should totally live stream Iowa, like go the actual election night. Well, yeah, I think so. You guys, your comments give me something to talk about. Like I was worried about what would happen if just me live streaming and there's no one here. What am I gonna do? But you guys talking really helped making fun. John Lang, yet another donation from you. Thank you so much. And Alex, thank you so much. Just wanted to say how much I appreciated your objective coverage of candidates and policies. Keep it up. Thanks so much, Alex, man. Yeah, so I'll save. Okay, most YouTubers have their latest live streams listed on the page. Yeah, I mean, I'm new to this. This is my first live stream, so yeah. So I'll leave this up. So winners and losers video. Wow, I am losing my brain. So yeah, I'll do a winners and losers video soon, but I'm gonna have to rewatch the debate before I really come to any determinations of who I think won and lost. Current vote count on just the on my community posts have Bernie Sanders leading quite strongly, more than he usually leads by, but I know my fans in this channel are pretty pro Bernie. By the way, John Lang, you're now in third place in the who also won the 7th Democratic debate. Donald Trump is at 16%. John Lang now down to 14%. Excuse me. Andrew Yang is up at 54% for the also won. Tom Steyer, who legitimately was actually in the debate, was also in that question. Hi, Debate Me. Hi, John Moran. Yes, it is question time. I am me. make a separate VODs channel and link it in the description. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Liar, thank you for making these videos. I'm by no means liberal, but your objective analysis is greatly appreciated. It's rare to find anything like this. Thank you so much, man. The real Slim Shady. The question is, who won the debate? I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to have to rewatch it. I was distracted by the live stream, to be honest. I'm going to look up something. So, this is out. So Ipsos and 538 generally do these polls where they ask the same people before and after the debate for who they're supporting, who they think won, things like that, which tends to give pretty interesting, indicative data about who won the debate. Pretty reasonable information. You got to take it with a grain of salt. It's not out yet, though. But that'll probably come out pretty soon, actually. Probably see it tomorrow. I want to hear how you would pronounce my name. Says Nelly Cruz? Nelly? Did I get it wrong? Pretty confident on Cruz. Could be Nelly, could be Niley. Maybe it's Nayeli. I don't know. But thank you for the donation. Ryan Wellman asks, how closely do you follow the Twitter circle surrounding this election, and how long before you release the videos do you write the scripts? So some scripts take a few days to write. What I really try to do is I try to go over my scripts before I record. Again, to make sure that all my numbers or information is up to date, but it sometimes fails me. The editing process also takes a while. It takes anywhere between, 4 and 10 hours, depending on the video. So there's very often a delay of a day and a half. Although, I can always go back and try to fix a little thing here or there. Oh, I got it the third time. Nayeli. So Nayeli. Cool. Thanks. Liar asks, assuming Bloomberg loses, do you think he will still put a ton of money towards the Dem nominee in the general election? Yeah, I think so. The only exception would be I don't think he'll put a lot of money behind Bernie Sanders. And I think he'd probably put less money behind Elizabeth Warren. And say if Yang or Tulsi Gabbard somehow managed to win, I don't think he'd give them any money either. His Excellency Potato Corn Sam. What is your comment on how millions of corns are harvested and eaten every year? Yeah, quite a bit. And, originally a Mexican plant that is really, really spread all over America. It's a very starchy vegetable. There's definitely better vegetables for you to eat. Big corn is actually a real thing and really affects politics in Iowa and Nebraska. And as a result, we basically have corn syrup and corn-based biofuels, essentially because of the power of Iowa and corn in Iowa. So corn really does have, there really are serious political considerations with corn. John Delaney was once corn. Yes, absolutely. John Lang asks, do you like my beautiful dark twisted fantasy? Like Kanye? No. Thanks, Ryan. Really pandering to the corn viewer base, QT. Yeah. That's true. Oh, man. Thank you, Nayali. Wow. Thank you. That's much appreciated. Okay, well, I don't like Kanye, man. I think Kanye is a good producer, but I don't think Kanye is a good rapper, and I think he's a narcissist, and I think Kanye is. I don't know. I don't really care about him that much. He's a silly guy. Have to spit some political bars. One person in this chat actually has heard me rap. Why haven't you been captioning your videos lately, or am I missing something? I had to take captions out of a video once in order to avoid demonetization. It just worked out that way. Sorry about that. It's YouTube's fault. And on the big debate videos, if there's a lot of clips from the debate, then my captions from my script end up being pretty useless, and the auto captions are better, so I don't increase my captions from that. So I don't upload my own captions because the auto captions will be better. Just because I don't transcribe the actual clips that I use. So if I don't use a lot of clips or I use no clips, my script is a much better captioning tool. But otherwise, I would have to spend a lot of time captioning and transcribing the actual clips I use if I was doing that for a debate breakdown. And with like a 40-minute video, like that's a lot. It's a lot of extra work. And it just isn't the best way to give you guys the most content for the time that I'm putting into it. So, but generally I put captions in. And then actually with the recent, the last video, it didn't have captions at first because they just didn't publish. But I tried to publish them, so they should be in there now. Yeah, 7th Democratic debate predictions. There's captions on that. There's captions on 6th Democratic debate winners and losers. Yeah, I mean, most of them are captioned. Just not the really long ones with lots of video clips in it. Hillary versus Houseplant. Yeah, that's close contest. Houseplant 2020. Maybe we'll make that a thing. I would very much enjoy that if Houseplant 2020 became a big thing. Also, I would recommend hashtag #LangGang for John Lang. Kevel says Kanye has the best bars in history. Yeah, he's the worst. He's not the worst, but he's not very good. There's much better. He's certainly not sicker than your average. He can't twist cabbage off instinct. But he does think, he definitely don't think shit stink. Shrijath Kambala. Sorry, I butchered your name there. Shoot. Let me give you a link. You should be able to watch it from there. It's got the live stream. I think you can take back the live stream if you want to watch the whole debate. I might just also thanks Rob Ray. I might just download the whole debate and put like a low-key link and an unlisted video on the channel if it gets really hard to find. So Rob Bray says, I think Houseplant would be the Democratic establishment's favorite. Appeals to a broad majority, won't rock the vote too much. That's true. I heard that the Houseplant promised at a quiet fundraiser with mega donors that nothing would fundamentally change if the Houseplant was elected. How do you feel about the harvest and murder of millions of corn every year? Yeah, I mean, it's sad, right? Houseplant 2020, hashtag #LangGang. Yeah. Crooked corn. That's a good one too. Don't forget that one. Okay. So, I don't know about you guys, but it's 5:30 in the morning in England here now. So, gonna pack it up soon. Man, I really appreciate the generosity just in chat revenue. Like, it's really nice of you guys. So, yeah, so I'll do live streams again. So, we got the Iowa vote. I'll see if I can think of some sort of thing to do with that. I'll also probably do a slightly more professional broadcast next time. This time I'm just sort of winging it. I was like 50-50 on whether I should live stream at all. So Yeah, I'm in England. Oh yeah, John Delaney has been to England, I bet. John Delaney could bench press England. Yeah, so I'll do more live streams with the February debates, but also I'm thinking I'll probably do one for election night in Iowa if it's possible. I'll probably just have a more casual conversation. Maybe I'll prepare some clips to react to or something like that. All right. Thanks, Nayeli. Am I still saying your name right, or have I like fallen off the track? Thanks, guys. I did my best. Yeah, it's very unprofessional, very different from what I usually do. Well, usually I'm do a lot of research for every word I've looked up an article of some kind. Mike Bloomberg got nice balls. Oh, we're back to that, John. I thought we had evolved past wing wangs and balls. John Delaney was unprofessional. Look at him now. Yeah, it's true. I remember the first time I saw like a wide shot of John Delaney, because I had seen only like pretty close up on his sort of shoulders and face and him talking, and I assumed that he was going to be a chubby guy. And then the first time I saw him in a wide frame, I was like, how? What? Yeah, John Delaney is freakishly strong and muscular. Absolutely. John Lang, true hero. Yeah, I think Houseplant is likely to be a surprise winner in Iowa, probably in the top 5. I feel this is a great representation of typical American voter. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's why we need Houseplant. Houseplant will calm things down, keep the boat from rocking. John Lang, you just made me laugh with that one. Bloomberg balls. Why Bloomberg, though? I got a new hashtag for y'all. I mean that in a deep throat sort of way. And John Lang, don't you use the word deep throat the wrong way. No shocker. Shocker. That one. There's another one. Delaney pledged 1+ rep for every vote he gets. He's sitting at about 12 reps now. Universal basic soil. I like that. Deep throat is it's a reference to Watergate. Everyone knew that John Lang was going to use that. I only mentioned deep throat to get John Lang to say that. I knew it was coming. All right. Okay, guys, I'm packing it in. We'll do more live streams in the future. This was fun. And also winners and losers videos coming. Don't forget to go to my community section and vote for whoever you think won the 7th Democratic debate in Iowa, and who also won the 7th Democratic debate. The only real candidate there is Tom Steyer. He is in last place behind John Delaney, John Lang, Donald Trump, and Andrew Yang. So thank you guys so much for watching and enjoying this stream. And I hope that you watch the debate, figure out who you think did well and who didn't do well. And watch my winners and losers video. Will be coming out in the next few days. And that's about it. Got nothing else to say there. Good night, everybody.